Well, good afternoon on the West Coast and East Coast. Good evening over in Europe, and good very early morning over in Asia and to some extent Australia, New Zealand. So thank you for joining us. It is the quarterly analyst report. And boy, howdy, have we got a show for you this time. A little bit of housekeeping up front. Please use the questions feature. Jennifer Hallmark's going to monitor that today since I'm on screen. So she'll monitor that. Jenny, we can take questions at any time. And then a couple of housekeeping updates or event updates. So currently I am in Scottsdale, Arizona, attending two shows. One was GlueCon over at the Phoenician. So I hit that pretty hard yesterday and last night, to say the least. And it was really cool. GlueCon, part of IT Glue. They had a session I have not seen before, the titans of the industry. So Arnie Bellini, the founder of Datto, yada, yada, yada. But they had a session where he brought all the, it's sort of like having the founders of the Constitution in the same room. It was really cool. That particular speech, had a chance to catch up with Arnie last night. If you want to peek over at my Instagram or Facebook, you'll see that we broke bread, made peace. We haven't talked in many years. So GlueCon, I'm currently at Solar Winds and Power over at the Marriott Camelback Resort. Then next week, Microsoft Ignite and Dreamforce. I'll go through some of these on another slide, but if you find yourself in the same city at the same time, always love to get together with you. That's kind of, and next week we have the legal MSP Tech Talk. We wrap up summer quarter, little overflow, summer quarter MSP Tech Talk with Ben Yarborough, who will offer up MSP legal advice. So let's get going. If you're not familiar with SMB Nation, 19 years in business. Kenny, we need to update that photo. We just need like one or two more cupcakes to make that the number 9. We participate widely in the industry. Shout out to CompTIA in particular. And we've probably received outsized media coverage over the years ourselves. With that said, I introduce myself as Harry Brelsford, the founder of SMB Nation. We're going to hear from Karl Palachuk, well-known quantity in the community, when he wraps up some business calls about 12:30 Pacific. And then we have Kevin Hunter. So Kevin, quickly introduce yourself and Kyle, and we're going to come back to you for a proper introduction on your slide. Thank you, Kevin and Kyle.
All right, thanks, Harry, and thanks for asking us to join you today on this SMB Nation broadcast. We've actually had a both exciting and fun relationship here with Harry. We met some short time ago, and really the intersection of our two pathways have made perfect sense. The things that we do both news-wise, myself and Kyle Torgerson here, that we do news-wise is really focusing on the bigger stories at hand, not just in our state, but in our region, in our nation, and even international stories. And this is something that I've taken a big interest in myself. I have many stories or many subjects that I've covered on the web that have millions of viewers, have been seen in all the tracked countries and territories around the world, and very proud of that. And so just kind of looking at what I did in the past, as far as online media, and then the things we're doing today with Northwest Digital News, it was a real blessing in disguise that we got a chance to meet Harry Brelsford here and SMB Nation and see more about what SMB Nation does as an organization. And it's really been a great fit for us here on Northwest Digital News. So really proud to be a part of it.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's jump into the good stuff. This audience, they're rightfully impatient, which I love. So folks, today, a couple of topics, and you're really going to like a couple of these. So stick with us to the end. Trust me on this one. So quickly, we're going to talk about those fall conferences to attend that are on top of my radar. Then we're going to have a little longer conversation with Kevin and Kyle about Tech Tuesday and what I would call a B2B audience, and so we're going to double click down on that. Then Jay McBain, well-known quantity in our MSP community, he joined Forrester recently and is an analyst after leaving as the CEO at Channelize, and he has a very interesting article that you're going to like about the biggest MSP community. It's going to surprise you. Then I'm going to give you a couple of social updates that are coming across my desk. I've always, you know, I need to make amends with social media, right? Because I've been a little bit critical of some things in the past as an old-timey typist and magazine guy and blogger, and I've learned my lesson. Part of that's the journey with Kevin. Got a surprising conversation with IoT. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag on that. And by that time, Karl Palachuk will arrive, and we're going to talk about his new SMB community where I'm participating, and you should too. So with that said, fall conferences to attend. We had this conversation, Kevin and Kyle, a couple of weeks ago on our Tech Tuesday segment on Northwest Digital News. But quickly for this audience, we have Microsoft Ignite next week in Orlando. So I'm going to be there most of the week. I am going to fly. At this point, I'm still gunning to fly overnight or late night, fly to San Francisco and catch the very tail end of Dreamforce. If for no other reason than what I would call event ego, Jay McBain is going to be a keynoter out there. I'll miss that keynote. But McBain is now claiming, and Kevin, when we had the show a couple of weeks ago, I was telling you they were forecasting 170,000 attendees.
That's right.
Yeah, McBain has come back and he's predicting 200,000 attendees.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably going to be staying at an Airbnb in Sacramento. I mean, there's just not enough rooms.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah. My event ego, I've got to touch down and at least step in and see it. It's not quite my crowd, but I got to see it. And then,
Harry, just to that point, real quickly, for
yes, sir.
folks that haven't been in their business sectors paying much attention to what's happening in tech and the advancements that are happening. One of the concerns that I've had from a news perspective, and just somebody who gets around to a lot of different cities, a lot of different communities, is how far behind people really are as it pertains to technology. So I'm delighted to see a crowd of 200,000 people show up to a tech event, because it tells me that the right audiences are paying attention, and hopefully these people that are behind will get a clue that they need to be there as well. So.
And then you can see Kevin, Kyle, and myself at GeekWire, Geek Summit and Smartsheet Engage, both in Seattle the first week of October. Smartsheet has come a long way from their spreadsheet metaphor to basically be workflow, almost supply chain. That's for a whole nother day. We'll be reporting. I am fired up to go back to Spice World. Spiceworks is an amazing community, and I'm actually staying about 10 days out there in Austin. My job at Spice World is probably 3 days, but doggone it, Kevin and Kyle and Jenny, I'm gonna get a little me time, do some barbecue. I just love Austin, so I'm gonna take a little vacation time right after that. Oh, and it's also Austin City Limits, the music festival. So, followed by Channel Pro SMB Summit in Long Beach on November 6th. Now, that's a really interesting one. First of all, that's convenient to a lot of listeners. The only oddity is that is Tuesday, November 6th, Election Day. So not quite sure why they did that. You have to vote absentee or by mail. Right after Thanksgiving is AWS Invent and reInvent down in Vegas, at least 30,000 again. I bet it's going to hit 50,000. And then Karl has a new CEO summit in Baltimore in early December. We're going to get Karl to talk about that. That be the events. That's pretty straightforward. So we're back to Northwest Digital News. And Kevin, so let's talk. It is Tuesday. We are simulcasting the Tech Tuesday segment to your audience, and you're participating in the third quarter MSP Analyst report. So let's talk about what your vision was for Tech Tuesday, and then what other shows do you have? I want everybody to click over on screen number 2 and like this page. Kevin, go for it. Tell us, sir, what is your story?
Well, Northwest Digital News was a kind of a obvious opportunity to connect things of local interest and business-related stories. See, before Northwest Digital News, and kind of running in the background, if people search the Business Forum show, my media contacts actually go back to 1999 when I first launched that broadcast. And I've been very, very interested in the business community, and in part because such a high percentage of those people fail. And yet small business is the backbone of the American economy, right? And so, you know, and for people who aren't familiar with those statistics, that by year 10, 96% of people who started a business today will no longer be in business. And of those 4 that are remaining, the really interesting part is people go, did those 4 live the American dream? And the answer is that 1 will lose a catastrophic amount of money to get out of business. 1 will break even. 1 will make a little bit of money, and 1 will live the American dream. And that's kind of what happens in the business community. And so looking at how we could influence things that I was already aware of that were happening on larger stages, and successful stories that I had created on an international stage. Northwest Digital News, a little bit of a backstory. There are other social media pages in our community that it maybe made sense for me to marry up my international audiences with local flavor stories. And so I had conversations with a couple of people who ran those pages, and when those things didn't pan out, they really didn't share or see the vision of what I was looking at. And so when they didn't pan out, it was October 8th last year that we officially launched Northwest Digital News. And I'm really,
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yes, I'm really proud and excited to see how fast it's grown, and the audiences that we reach today, and even more interestingly, all the really cool people that we've drawn to the show. So when you're asking about, you know, what's kind of the vision and where we're going with Northwest Digital News, I really wanted to bring a more diverse audience, as opposed to specifically a business audience that I targeted years ago with the Business Forum show. And so, as an example, if you tune in on Thursday, you're going to find shows that are all geared towards health and wellness. And so you'll hear guests from various aspects around the United States. Our very regular co-host on that show is a gal by the name of Jody Summers. She's out of Northern California, longtime background in nutrition and health. And I'll tell you what, she's been a little bit of a godsend to me as well. I actually met Jody many years ago, and when we started, you know, talking about launching the social media aspect of what we were doing, news related, she was very excited to be a part of this. A little backstory why even the nutrition stuff is important to me. So if people go, why would Kevin involve business and tech and things like that? Well, it is really kind of my wheelhouse. It has been for a lot of years. But the health and wellness side, I'm 52. When I was 35, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis. And for people who know what kind of a life sentence and death sentence that really is, there's significant health complications that come out of that. And I had to go on a personal journey because I didn't believe that NSAIDs were the only way of dealing with that complication. And I didn't want to be like my grandmother, who was wheelchair bound. I believe when I was born, she was probably in her mid 50s. I never knew her to not be sitting paralyzed in a wheelchair. And so looking ahead for myself, I was like, I don't want to be that person. And so using my broadcast and my media influence, I began interviewing and talking to doctors, nutritionists, people around the United States. So one of the things I'm really proud of is that journey that I went on to try to solve my rheumatoid arthritis thing from a nutritional standpoint led me to where I am today. And I'm really proud and excited to say that most people that run into and met me for the first time think I'm 35 years old. And then after they visit with me for a while, they realize that, well, you didn't learn all of that in 35 years. No offense to anybody who's
you wear it well, my friend.
But they recognize there was a little more seasoning to my comments, and we're a little surprised to find out. So that journey not only led me to solving a rheumatoid arthritis complication, but I kind of found the fountain of youth as a result of solving that deal. And so people like Jody, who just became people I came to know and learn and meet over that journey, are now part of my broadcast with Northwest Digital News. A lot of really other fun people too. A guy that I've done a lot of broadcasting with, he will be joining us here soon on Northwest Digital News. His name is Ben Tice. And for people who don't know Ben, exciting young gentleman who was hired by Google a number of years ago to help launch Google Hangouts and Google Plus. Ben Tice owns a company by the name of Skoll Media out of Minneapolis, St. Paul area, but super brilliant young guy in the areas in which I've kind of cut my teeth on over the years. And Ben Tice is joining us here soon on Northwest Digital News as well to help people compete really in that online marketing and establishing your business in these online channels, which we know for many people are so challenging. Another longtime partner of mine on Northwest Digital News is a gentleman by the name of Dave Ford. And for people who know and have heard of Action Coach Global, Action Coach has offices, I believe, in every state in the United States. In some of the states, there's multiple cities in which their offices are. But here in the U.S., Dave Ford is one of the top profit-producing coaches within Action Coach Global. And I've done a number of broadcasts with him, and Dave is joining us as well to help lend to that business and business coaching and business advice thing. So just to give a quick little plug, you made a reference to Karl Palachuk. I'm really interested in getting to know Karl more and really visiting about, hey, how can we kind of make all of this work with, excuse me, not only what you're doing with SMB Nation, but we'd love to have Karl part of our broadcast here on Northwest Digital News. So it's gone a lot of different directions, and I didn't name even a few people that are all. We have a gentleman who owns Master Credit Solutions. We're adding that into the broadcast to give people advice and help on rebuilding credit. We got another gal who's one of the Beachbody.com instructors that is joining our. So it's all little puzzle pieces that we're fitting together right now. Go ahead, Harry.
Yeah. That's a valid point. I mean, what we're seeing in the MSP community, and in fact, I mean, I'm living and breathing it at these two conferences. They're distinctly different. The GlueCon conference has to do with business documentation, workflow, business practices over at the Phoenician 4 miles away. And then the SolarWinds conference that I'm at is more of a technical deep dive into remote management and monitoring. And, SolarWinds is, no one's devoid of the business conversation, but SolarWinds is treating this conference as a more technical conference.
Sure.
And so, the diversity of your topics dovetails to any business owner, right? We're all basically business owners. We just happen to be in tech. And then, a couple observations would be that even though your name is Northwest Digital News, I can appreciate that, and I think the Northwest has an outsized role in technology, to put it one way. So that all makes sense, but a lot of the topics you're covering are not limited by geography. They're not limited by industry, and that's pretty cool that you're 1 year in. Hey, if you don't mind, because I'm going to weave in Northwest Digital News into some YouTube conversations and some other things in a minute. If you don't mind, Jenna, if you want to take control for our sponsor. So we're sponsored by SolarWinds, and here I am at SolarWinds Empower in Scottsdale. And so this segment is underwritten by SolarWinds Mail. As everybody knows, we fancy ourselves as almost like National Public Radio or PBS, that our sponsors are very well behaved, they're supporters, and they're making this community possible. So if you could, with a tip of the hat and a nod, give SolarWinds Mail with its security and protection a second look. And we're going to have a couple polls fly by. Is their participation today? Jenny, because I'm main screen, you'll need to let me know when you close the poll and I can proceed.
And Harry, before we close the poll, we do have one question. What is Kevin's website? Or Kevin, what's the best way for people to connect with you? Is it through the Facebook or through a website, or how would they do so if they wanted to?
Yeah, there's a contact page on northwestdigitalnews.com. And I can also share our studio line, which people can either call or text to, no problem there. It's 360-545-3501. Again, 360-545-3501. Call or text to that line. That's a good contact number for me as well.
Perfect. And the URL one more time?
Northwest digitalnews.com.
Perfect. We are just collecting the last of those votes. It looks like about half of you have voted. If the rest of you could vote really quick, we can shut down this poll and move on to the next item.
Right on. All right, Jenny, at your command.
We're collecting these last few votes and numbers are still going up.
All right. Well, then I'm gonna make a reminder for people that came in late. Next week, Orlando, Microsoft Ignite. I'm there for 4 days. I'm with Big Scott, by the way. A lot of people know Big Scott, Scott Kiowa. So we're teaming up. And Big Scott's not so big, Jenny. He lost over 100 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, that University of Miami jersey he's so fond of. It's he's gonna have to go buy a new one. He's not the linebacker that he was.
Alrighty, we're going to close down this poll, and Harry, you are back on.
Alrighty, so let's talk about McBain, Jay McBain, a well-known quantity in the community. Jay and Kevin and Kyle, you'll like this story. So Jay McBain married Michelle Ragusu probably 4 or 5 years ago. They had their wedding over the 4th of July weekend in upstate New York, actually in Albany. And they're kind of the couple of the IT channel. And so they invited everybody. I mean, literally invited everybody in the community. I think 100 people were able to make the trip in addition to family and friends. And my wife and I, we were both tickled and appreciative that, you know, that's, boy, talk about community. Opening up your wedding. Unfortunately, it was literally the 4th of July weekend, and we, of course, had some other plans, but that's a little bit of background. So what McBain did is he's now joined as a global analyst, and by the way, I reached out to him, and he had client meetings today. He's very good about joining our show as he's able, but he was busy today. So what he found in his research, and this is a shocker, is that the #1 MSP community is Reddit. And I'm like sitting here going, seriously? I mean, you know, I'm just trying to keep up with Hootsuite and all these other platforms, and I don't spend a lot of time in Reddit. I have in the past looked at it, but it's not one of my bookmarks. And so he found it's a thriving community for IT pros and MSP channel partners, and we found it for a couple of reasons. I don't agree with #4. We'll get to that, but #1 I agree with is the anonymity of Reddit, and that's kind of what it's known for. Is it's a forum, if you will, where you typically have a mask ID, and you can speak freely, which is kind of what #3 is about, is the lack of censorship. And then #2. And guys, if you Google this, you can read his article, of course, up on Forrester, but the content quality. So they have a scoring algorithm and a voting system where content is elevated based on the quality. I do like that. #3, kind of circling back to the lack of censorship. Now, again, that's good and bad because these forum boards, just out in the wild, they tend to be a little caustic. They tend to trend towards negativity. That's unfortunately a reality. And then #4 was the channel demographics. And what McBain did in trying to figure out why Reddit was this like sleeper community is he quoted a study from Datto. Datto is a large backup and disaster recovery vendor in our space. And Datto did a channel study that found, you know, no surprise, 83% of our community is male. That's not a surprise. But Datto has asserted that our community is younger than we think. This is where I disagree, probably at my own peril, that younger people would tend to migrate towards Reddit. I'm going to have to double click down into their study on this one, because our experience with the technology community in our generation is, unfortunately, we're an aging demographic, and I resemble that with other people on the phone and listening. And so Reddit is not top of mind. So Kevin and Kyle. Kyle, you're a young man. Maybe you want to pitch in on what's your experience with Reddit. I mean, I've kind of laid out my argument here from McBain, but gentlemen, any thoughts on Reddit?
Personally, I use Reddit constantly. I use Facebook regularly just to check up on, Northwest Digital News stuff, but I've completely basically taken it off my phone and I'm using nothing but Reddit now. I love Reddit. So you understand. So Facebook, you know how you could like things and you on your feed, you just like that. It pops up. Well, on Reddit, you can basically subscribe to boards, and these boards are specific boards. So my hobbies, I like ant keeping and I like yo-yoing, just some weird things, obscure, hard communities to find. But on Reddit, there's whole boards dedicated to those, and you can find like-minded people. And so you can only subscribe to any board you like, or ones specific dedicated to certain things. So right now, Rocket League is a huge community and a huge Major League Gaming. It's growing rapidly, like for Major League Gaming. It's crazy what they're doing. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the developers are actually on Reddit, on the Rocket League Reddit specifically, in answering questions as people are doing it. And it's such a tight community. I literally just subscribed to Rocket League. I'm getting just basically all the updates of the new season pass. They literally just started talking about a new DLC with Hot Wheels. So they already shared videos about that. People are commenting about what they'd like. A lot of the devs are actually commenting on those comments saying, oh yeah, we'll look into that and things like that. And Reddit is actually such a good tool if used correctly. And there's moderators. So like with the lack of censorship, you can have censorship if you set up rules like that. So there's moderators and you can create your own board. So yeah, it's Reddit is a gold mine. I love Reddit. My father actually uses Reddit as well, and he does the guitar stuff, and it's great. And Reddit, I check out Reddit. Honestly, it's such a great community. I love Reddit. It's such a good board.
Well, that's why I went to the starting lineup on this question. Kevin, any thoughts on that, or maybe we should make a side note. Let's do a Tech Tuesday on Reddit. I will get myself. I'm writing it down. I will educate myself on Reddit, my friend. But anything you'd like to contribute on the Reddit conversation?
Well, I think Kyle pretty much said it all. And I think we should do a show on Reddit. Here's a really cool thing that I really recommend that our audiences do when you think of these various platforms that are popping up in social media. Think of how much things have changed in the last 5 years, in the last 10 years. And if we even go back to before a time when Facebook existed and how many people were used, I don't even remember what the old site was. I was going to say FaceTime, but that's not it. What was MySpace? Remember when MySpace was around?
Yeah.
Okay, and all these people using MySpace. Well, that was back like in the mid 2000s. Well, Facebook comes on the. I think these are just examples in my own lifetime, but I think when you. If somewhere along the line a bug comes in your ear about another social media platform that you can go, well, I'm not really interested in more than what I'm doing. I really encourage, especially older audiences, if you hear about something that's out there, go dig into it, study it, and instead of just drawing even a surface conclusion on what you think you found out, actually jump on it, use it a little bit, learn about it. You might find something out about, as an example, Reddit, just like Kyle did. And that's, you really got to jump in and use it. You aren't going to hurt it or break it or whatever else. Just do it. And you might find out that it's a surprising new avenue of communication and other resources for you personally, professionally, your business, et cetera. I think about the broadcast that we do on Northwest Digital News. And I think back 5 years ago, and I wouldn't have imagined turning on the camera and broadcasting live on 6 different social media platforms at one time. And yet, it's a regular occasion today.
And just to piggyback off that, what I'm kind of looking at and seeing with just social media is like Instagram and Twitter and Reddit and all these other types of social medias. If you do it correctly, each one has its own, like, I guess you'd say flavor or certain characteristics.
It has its own niche.
Yeah, it has its own niche. And if you have that niche, if you figure out what that niche is, your company or whatever your niche or company or whatever it is can explode. Like Denny's and Tumblr, and right now Arby's is a huge thing on Facebook because their marketing team is crazy. It's really a lot of pop culture references, and they do cardboard cutouts, and it's actually really cool what they're doing. And so they're blowing up on Facebook. So every single social media, if you do it correctly, find out what people like, it's really exponential growth. Like on Instagram, a lot of businesses are going on there and showing like, hey, we're here and this is the new stuff that we're doing. Right now that I'm kind of noticing is Discord. Discord's becoming more of a thing. I'm going to be researching more on that. I use Discord a lot, but Discord's also pretty great. It's hard to explain. Discord's, and it stands out on a lot of things.
Here's the interesting thing, just a really quick follow-up on that, Harry, is that it's almost unfair for me to even share this idea because I checked on my laptop, I checked on the studio computer. I'll have to find this, but it's actually not mine. There was a quadrant that my colleague Dave Ford shared with me years ago. It's called the cash-rich, time-rich quadrant. And I even searched on the internet to find out, like, has anybody ever created this image? And no, it's not out there at all, but it's positively brilliant. And so we'll have to put this together on a future broadcast and share this quadrant with people.
Taking notes.
Yeah, because when people get to see it, and then you really understand what your target market is for your business, the social media platforms that you choose will then make sense. Because when he was talking about the niches that each of these social media platforms have, the more you understand about your client, the more you'll understand about what the appropriate platforms to be using. And it could be that, Kyle just made a reference to Arby's and Facebook and how well that's working for them. Well, what if they're doing the same thing on Twitter? Does it work? Maybe, maybe not. What if they did it on Reddit? Does it work? Maybe, maybe not. The thing is understand your client is what really drives what might be the appropriate social media niches for your organization, but you don't know that till you really understand the quadrant that I'm referring to. And I'm sorry that I don't have that graphic, but we will share it on an upcoming broadcast.
No, that's fine. So couple of things. Folks, if you look at the screen, by the way, go to LinkedIn and reach out to Jay McBain or go to Facebook. So first of all, Jay McBain and Michelle McBain, they love friends. So do me a favor, reach out to him and tell him you appreciate his work. Number two, look at that screenshot of my review of Atira, the PSA and RMM program at 6,700 views. That's our highest trafficking YouTube video. And then go to the second place, which is the special Halloween webinar where we did a Get Your Windows 10 on a few years ago. Ignore the timestamp, guys. That's when we made them public. Okay, so they were unlisted and we made them public, so the timestamp's not accurate. But we had a special Halloween webinar from Microsoft Redmond. It was hysterical because all these families brought their kids to go through these little carnival out in the soccer field, and it was a noisy webinar. But the point is this: Atira exposed me to Reddit, and they used it as a strategy to socialize this review that I did for their product. And there's your answer, Kevin, to your point about just try it and discover. The traffic for the Atira product review, which would normally not be a heavily trafficked video, is, what is that, over 4 times greater than just our traditional outreach up on YouTube. And so, guys, the data doesn't lie. Karl Palachuk, I'm going to introduce you properly in a couple of slides. Jenny gave me a side note that you are on, sir. Before we do a proper introduction, would you like to make any comments on Reddit? I don't know if you play in that reindeer game. You certainly know Jay McBain, but welcome, Karl, and we'll introduce you on the other side.
Well, hello there. I do use Reddit. I guess, what's funny is that my first impression today is that Reddit has suddenly started to look like Facebook. So I don't know what Kyle's impression of that is, but when I look at it, I'm like, well, there's already a Facebook. Why does Reddit need to look like that? Because they changed their look and feel. But I get, it's funny, I track all kinds of links into my site, and every once in a while I'll get 200 extra page views on some obscure page. I'm like, what the hell, right? And I look, and sure enough, somebody mentioned something on Reddit, and everybody clicked. So it's not a bad marketing tool if you've got a lot of SEO, just natural content.
Yeah, very cool.
In terms of the audience and the demographics, a lot of the people that are very outspoken there, at least in our community, tend to be beginners. You know, they're like, I don't know why I need to be charging $120 an hour and you know, paying my taxes and stuff like that. It's like, wait a minute. You know, they're the people who are not going to be around in 5 years, as Kevin was saying.
Carl, that's a funny line. I gotta tell on myself, I was just approving the filing of my subchapter S taxes yesterday. Guess what it was? It was Monday, September 17th. I'll just leave that dangling out there as to why I was e-filing. Let's move on, as they say. Jenny, maybe pull question number 2, because we're getting to some really cool stuff. So I'm going to tease people with the social updates. It looks like Jenny's opened the poll. Jenny, any questions, Reddit or otherwise?
Yeah, we've got one comment, only seeing the McBain page, but Harry mentioned Atira and others I'm not seeing.
Yeah, Atira was at the bottom of that page. I know we're not displaying my slide at the moment, but it was quite frankly, you can go up on the SMB Nation YouTube channel and search for Atira, but I had a screenshot that was just showing. Jenny, is my whole screen showing? That's actually a valid point. Am I rendering my slides okay?
I will double confirm when we get back onto your slides. Unfortunately, the poll's up right now, and so I cannot see your slides.
Okay. And again, folks, while you take just an extra second to answer that, if you came in late, I'm not going to repeat every show I'm going to, but front and center, today I'm at GlueCon and Solar Winds and Power in Scottsdale. And then next week, all next week, basically, Microsoft Ignite in Orlando, total geek show. I actually really excited. Jenny, I'm going to work with Julie Yak, the go-to in CRM. She's doing some training, some sessions, and then I personally am going to deep dive into Power BI for the analytics. And Karl, I'm going to hook analytics when we get to your community a little bit later. So that's let's leave that hanging out there on Power BI. Jenny, when you're ready, and we'll get back to the presentation.
You are back on, Harry.
All right, so I want to give you social updates, folks. Again, this is third quarter MSP analyst report. So again, as I try to stay relevant and explore and transform and grow and not be stuck in my ways and so on, I have my own personality challenges with that. I mean, it's exhausting. It's exhausting to stay current in tech. But I want to make amends with Twitter this quarter, okay? Because I've been a little negative about Twitter in the past, and it over amplifies politicians and sports stars and movie stars. So I've had issues with Twitter, but I want you guys to kind of call yourself, as we say, or be a secret shopper. And here's what I mean. On the left, we have Hootsuite, which I do like. I do like Hootsuite because I can post up to multiple platforms and put it on a timer, and it even has some basic analytics. So on the left, you will see some feeds from Hootsuite recently. There was the Channel Pro SMB Forum in the center there in Boston last week. I'm in the booth. I was there. Karl was across from me. Had a good time in Boston. Good show. On the right of that particular Hootsuite feed, you'll see my tweets. And if you'll look earlier today, I had done a last call for the third quarter analyst report with a link and a couple of hashtags. And then instantly in another screen, I hit Control R and updated Google searching on SMB Nation. And you will see that tweet appeared essentially simultaneously on a page 1 search result. And that's the point I want to make, is that take a second look at Twitter, because I am not a pro athlete. I am not a rock star or a politician, but the SEO functionality of Twitter is dramatically underestimated. I don't think people really read my tweets. That's not really the point. More importantly, it's a page one search result in Google. And I'm happy to go around the horn on that conversation. Kevin, Kyle, Karl, boy, all letter K's today. It's kind of weird. So,
Not
Karl,
to be confused with the KKK.
Kevin, go ahead. Yeah, Kevin, any thoughts on the socialization of content via Twitter? Is that a tool that you use to drive traffic to your media organization and your YouTube site?
I'm less of a Twitter user than I am on a lot of the other platforms, and I just have to admit there isn't necessarily a really good reason for that. I'm a user on Twitter, but not a significantly active user there. I've just used a lot of the other, put my focus and my energy into a lot of other platforms, and so it's in no way should be understood to be, I think, less of Twitter. I've just simply chosen other platforms to grow the kind of markets that I am. So when you're talking about niches, just other platforms fit my personal niche or my professional niches better than Twitter, but that's not going to be true necessarily for a lot of people who may be following us.
Okay, and Karl, I'll call on you. You've built an SMB community, complementary, congruent to SMB Nation. Are you Mr. Twitter?
Well, I don't know about Mr. Twitter. I do use it. I use it primarily as a broadcast medium. So whenever we put anything out there, I have my assistant Crystal go onto Hootsuite, and she reposts everything that I do onto Twitter. And so some things are automatically posted. I use networked blogs, which is now called Symphony Tools, to automatically, if I put up a blog post, for example, it will forward a short link to that to Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, so forth. And then Krista will grab that and repeat that with slightly different wording every 8 days for, I think, 6 weeks or something like that. So, you know, everything I do, once it goes out, it gets amplified and amplified and amplified. And every once in a while, I'll actually look at Twitter and see what's going on. But I've never really embraced it as a tool where I hang out all day and, you know, have lengthy conversations with people.
No, yeah, I agree. Why don't we move on? Kyle, I'll catch you on the other side with another topic. So, in fact, it'll be this topic in particular with Kyle and Kevin, followed by Karl. I owe Jennifer Hallmark over in the radio control room a huge apology because Jenny was right and I was wrong. And what happened was years ago, Jenny said, you need to do more with YouTube. And I said, no, I'm stuck in my ways. I mean, we do a lot with YouTube. We have, I counted before to prepare for this, we have 390 videos up there. Many of those are unlisted with the nature of the way we have a gate in front of a lot of content. I am going to, over time, open all those up, and I'm probably exposing, at this point, 200 videos. But we're going to open everything up, and so we are up there, but that tends to be, Karl, you remember when we used to videotape lectures at the fall conference and that kind of thing, and you know, boy howdy, that would get you, like Varvid would get us 36 lectures in 3 days, right? That's how we got to such a big number, and they're good lectures. So starting July 1st, and I owe an apology and ultimately a thank you to Jenny, and then I owe a thank you to Kevin and Kyle, because Kevin and Kyle, when we got together a few months ago, they got me the Amazon links to buy the Yeti mic, the cabling that was necessary. They have trained me on some basics of video, and for example, what you see in the upper left is my thumbnail. So I have a consistent thumbnail, and I call that my CNN box. So those are books that I wrote above my shoulder going up to, that would be the right. I got to turn around. And then Karl, believe it or not, just off my left shoulder, probably not visible, are yearbooks. Right behind my shoulder are that bundle that you had with the MSP things. And then forgive me, I put Matt Makowitz's sales book right next to yours. So I'll reposition those. But
that's fine. I appreciate it.
yeah. So I built the C&M box. And Kevin, I guess, I'm going to go to you on this. I mean, I'm a little bit new. We're using it as a tool. That's this morning's post. I interviewed the CEO of Kaseya about the acquisition of rapid fire tools. Folks, go over to our channel on YouTube. It's the proverbial under 8-minute interview. Kevin, you are Mr. YouTube. We had that talk a few weeks ago in the MSP Tech Talk academic series, but would you mind bragging about yourself, your claim to fame with the traffic you drove for the auto buying videos, particular to this slide?
Yeah, there's a number of them that are out there. I have, when you're talking earlier about, the YouTube market for SMB Nation and stories that you've published out there, I'm really proud to say that my top stories now on YouTube are in excess of 5 million views. And so what I kind of like gauge success of a story on for me now today, based on what I've learned over the years and how to drive a really great story on YouTube. What I kind of look for today is I want to bust the 100 and even better yet, the 500 view mark in the first 24 hours the video is up. And in YouTube Creators Library, they will tell you that any video that exceeds that 500 mark in the first 30 days has to be a pretty exceptional video. And that would be true then, unless you happen to be Beyonce, or somebody who already has millions and millions of subscribers, different market altogether. But when you do a really, really good story, and you present it properly, it's very possible to hit those kind of numbers right out of the gate. And then when you do, 10,000 views just becomes a natural. And the minute it hits 10,000 views, 100,000 is the immediate next natural that happens. And you can get excited about 100,000, but I can guarantee you if your video will hit 100,000, it'll also hit 1 million too. And so so I'm going to give you just a really basic framework of how to make that happen. And if you want us to, Harry, maybe either as a follow-up to this or at whatever point in this conversation, I think it would also be helpful for our audiences to understand a little bit of what we're producing right here from our home studio, from this location, and how easily business people could do this from their home and whatever. And I'll have Kyle do that here as soon as I wrap up. So let me just share a few basic points that you need to take into consideration in a story that you would launch on YouTube. So three basic things initially is remember why you go and visit the internet. You're not going there to be sold. That is the when you think of the online world, people think of selling or advertising things when they go into radio or TV or into a magazine or into a newspaper or any of those mediums. When you do that on the web, you break the rule of needing to publish educational, informational, and or entertaining content. So it has to be one of those three categories or all three. If you can educate, inform, and entertain somebody in one message, you got some pure gold there. The second component of that is when you mentioned the auto industry. If somebody wants a great point of reference, one of the best videos that I have out there that capture what I'm about to say perfectly is the video titled "How to Beat the Dealer Finance Office." And this is a video that targets the car business. But in that video, you'll notice that in fact, it's actually not video, it's animated pictures, but that qualifies as video on YouTube. So for those of you that are camera shy and don't want to be on camera, you can put together a montage of really great pictures that tell your story. That's what that video is. And then create a very nice audio bed for it so that the people who like to listen besides watch, you're tying into a second learning mode, so it's both visually interesting. It's now auditory. It's interesting to the auditory learner. And then I support that with text overlays so that people can go, oh, that's exactly what he's saying. So don't forget the value of text overlay. So if you create a message that's informative, educational, entertaining, and or all three, and you create a great picture presentation or video presentation of what you're doing along with a good audio bed and a text overlay. If you do that, well, now you're taking a message that is of the type that people are looking for on the web, and you're hitting 3 learning styles with that one video presentation. And that in and of itself is enough to make most stories take off and become organically viral. Here's one more thing, though, I'd say about that, because aren't we all interested in something that just takes on a life of its own? And you think about the snowball that rolls down the hill and picks up snow. And wouldn't it be really cool if a story you're doing today where you go, wow, it did, 5,000 or 10,000 its first 6 months. What happens if the video then dies after that? After a while, it becomes old news, right? But what if instead that video does what I said earlier and runs to 100,000, then 1 million, then 1.5 million, then it's 3 million, then it's 5 million. That's a snowball that just keeps going, gets bigger and bigger and bigger and never stops. And here's what you have to do in order to get a story like that. People who only publish stuff that they go, here's what people really need to know today. I don't necessarily publish stories like that. I will look at this and go, will these facts that I'm researching, will they still be true 5 years from now? Will they still be true 10 years from now? Will they still be true 50 years from now? And the thing is that so that message, that in the work that I'm doing on that, the reason why videos that I published have this continued snowball and just get bigger and bigger, grow faster and faster over time, is because I'm not putting out the poster for the rodeo next week. I'm putting out the value of rodeos and how they might be of value to you and your family and generations to come, and the things that you can learn from a rodeo. I would publish a story like that instead of here's the event coming up next week, you need to get excited about, go and attend, and et cetera. So just think about the life of the message and focus on on capturing it in something that will run a decade down the road or 20 years down the road. Go ahead, Harry.
Yeah. And Kevin, let me get deep into fall quarter or winter quarter, and we're going to bring you back for that same conversation again that we had during summer quarter.
Sure.
So we'll do a 2.0 on that, because you've got it down. And part of our transition, and there's, again, this is a good business conversation for the MSPs and partners on the line to just think about their business models. You raise a really valid point that I need to do more of the evergreen topics, because as you can see on the left, the topic today is an acquisition that occurred last week, and I met with the CEO because I'm here. So it's still very newsworthy. Kaseya is a known, player in our industry, as well as Rapid Fire Tools. Kevin, this is not news. This is a news cycle piece, right? So in 2 weeks, This is not news. And I need to be thinking more about evergreen topics. Now, Karl, I want to go to you, because I think you have, and my compliments, at 6 times the subscribers, maybe more, of SMB Nation on your YouTube channel. You're a YouTube advocate. So tell us what your experience is in growing community and thoughts on YouTube, and then we'll move to the next topic.
Sure. Can I turn on my camera for a second?
Oh, it should be on.
Oh, well.
I'm assuming you're properly dressed. But
there he is.
I just got dressed during this. So part of what I do, I have this mural here, and I can't see the Relax, Focus, Succeed surfboards, but I do a lot of videos with this background. And it's funny because somebody told me one time that I'm always wearing Hawaiian shirts. And I said, no, I'm almost never wearing Hawaiian shirts. And they said, well, there's something about your videos where it makes me feel Hawaiian. And I'm like, oh, well, that's the background. But yeah, I have, now I don't have nearly the performance that these other guys have, but I have probably almost 24 videos that have over 1,000 views. Yeah. I think my number one is maybe 7,000, and then it goes 6, 5, 4, 3. It goes down pretty quick. But I have maybe 450 videos up there. About 250 are on standard operating procedures. So they are, pretty standard. I also try to do like the SMB community podcast. I record that. And so those go up and I make them public. One of the things that a lot of people don't know, if you put out a Google ad campaign that's a video campaign and you make that video public, then all of the hits you buy through the Google ad campaign count as views on YouTube, even though they're owned by the same company and they know completely what and exactly what's going on. But you can instantly, buy 4,000 views at 4 cents a piece, So I've done a couple of those, and it's been pretty good because they then promote your videos more when they see that you've got a lot of views. So
yeah.
That helps the whole thing. One of my channels, just so you know, is when Jerry Kennedy was working for me, he recorded, I don't know, like 23 interviews from SMB Nation. I think it was like 2007 or 8 or 10 or something. But anyway, so there's a bunch of those up there that just live forever.
Yeah, and Karl, if you don't mind, maybe when we circle back to this topic again, I'd probably be winter quarter at this point. We've kind of mapped out fall quarter, but let's get you on with Kevin and double click down into YouTube. I'll know more. And Kyle, I'm going to call on you on the back end because folks may have to move on with their day, but I do want to talk about some of the technology to make yourself proficient in broadcasting, as Kevin suggested. So I haven't forgotten yet. IoT. So this is pretty interesting. This is an hour ago. Let me check my watch. This is 2 hours ago. So that is Robert Steffens, the founder of Geek Squad, and he gave the keynote here at the Solar Winds and Power Conference in Scottsdale. And I am here as a member of the media. And then this is a setup. You can see that light in the background. They set it up for video. And I finished this interview at about 11:15 a.m. Pacific, and then had to be on there with these fine people at 12 noon Pacific. So, guys, give me a couple hours, and I'll get this up on the YouTube channel. I had to kind of run upstairs and set up for this, but he talked about IoT, and Karl, I welcome your dialogue here. Let me kind of work through the points, but Karl, when I interviewed you at CompTIA, and a couple of the top topics you took away, there was some IoT-isms woven in there somewhere from the CompTIA ChannelCon conference in early August in DC. We'll get back to that, but what he said, he spoke, Robert Stevens spoke for over an hour today, and it was right at the end. He talked about the history of Geek Squad and sold it to Best Buy, and they're the world's largest purchaser of VW bugs out of the Mexico City factory, blah, blah, blah. But then it got interesting right at the end, and he was running out of time, and he said, guys, there's no Geek Squad for IoT, ergo a void, ergo an opportunity. And he cited a company, Augury, that installs sensors on industrial machines. And this Robert Stevens, I'm assuming is a successful high net worth individual. He certainly carries himself well. So he's a little chippy up on stage. So he gets a little salty. So he said, screw taking care of printers and computers. Sensors are like Shazam for industrial equipment, and it's about the sound waves. So this company, Augury, what they're doing is what we all do. And that is when you turn on your car, and I have a old Volvo that's gone through raised 2 teenage boys, and I literally do this because the tranny is starting to act up, and I'm going to donate it to drivers who are blind in probably a few months. But the tranny's going, and I literally listen to my car for sound deviations. Does that make sense? You do it with your washer and dryer, you do it with your car, your boat engine. and that's what Augury does, is it measures sound waves. And then, so Robert Stevens goes on to say, and this is all in my interview, but he goes on to say that it's not about automation. Automation is so yesterday in technology. it's about anticipation. So IoT is anticipation. And he argues that, Karl, our MSP community, this is a natural act for monitoring. And then finally, a couple of other points, and give me till the rest of today to pop this up, but with 3D printing and other low-cost manufacturing methods, the cost of sensors is going to drop dramatically and basically be like paper-based, what is that, RFID chips. And you're just going to slap them on equipment. And whatever the paradigm is, whether it's listening to sound deviations, Fluke Manufacturing, or Stein Hendricks from the old SBSC communities, now the CMO up in Everett, Washington, they're not listening to sound, but they're all in healthcare, like the Fred Hutch Cancer Center, monitoring HVAC temperatures and able to justify their existence and cost savings. And so Stevens ended with, what kind of customers could you have today that you don't have? And then his speech ended. Karl, I'll go to you first, because IoT was a conversation at CompTIA and beyond. Sir, your thoughts on IoT, and how can I meet payroll in 2 weeks with an IoT practice?
Well, it's interesting. The natural thing that I think people should think about with IoT is that we are moving into an era where you're going to make money based on transactions. The number of endpoints, and the number of endpoints in IoT is no longer, it's not like computers where you measure it in dozens or hundreds. It is thousands and millions. And
right.
You think of all of the sensors that are being installed everywhere. Bob Vogel from, in past days in many different companies in our space, he was talking about them redoing some work in his apartment complex and the condo complex. And they redid all of this concrete work, and they're like, okay, so we don't know, that's going to settle sometime in the next 5 years. And I asked him, did they install sensors? And he says, oh yeah, that's a huge part of the concrete business now, is they put these sensors everywhere. So when anything moves or shifts, they have a way to measure that. And so, somebody is selling those sensors, right? And and construction companies are not buying a dozen. They're buying 100,000 at a time. And that is such a huge opportunity for us. And that's one of 1,000 things. I mean, look at the house you just bought. Yep. How many sensors are going to be in that house 10 years from now, right? Absolutely everything that you can imagine. And those things are going to age. They're going to need to be replaced. They need to be monitored. Companies like SolarWinds have to figure out, how do I measure this? Because with computers, you measure and you say, oh, what's the processor doing? How hot is it? How fast is the fan going? Those are discrete things, and if one thing is out of line, you flip an error. But with massive sensors, you can't monitor everything. So all you can do is look at the aggregated data and say, what does normal look like? And then if something is abnormal, then you focus on it. And that's a whole different way of monitoring the world. And so we're literally at early days of this. And all of this is going to mature very, very quickly. And of course, it's all a massive security problem. And so all of these things are insecure by default. So you got to figure out what are the basics that you have to do to secure it, and then what's the more important stuff you need to do to secure it down the road. So tons of opportunity as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and Karl, I know you have a close relationship with our publishing partner, E&H Publishing. I think they're out of Boston or North Carolina. They publish Channel Pro, and they have just launched not a magazine, but a new media, what would you call it, a media entity on IoT. And
they have the IoT playbook. Is if you Google IoT playbook, you can find that.
Yeah, good friends of ours. Kevin, if you don't mind, have you touched on IoT over at Northwest Digital News, or do you have experience in this area?
A simple answer would be no.
Okay.
And the short answer.
Well, good. Well, it'll be a future show. So
we are learning something here today too, so that's great.
Okay. Karl, sir, this is your time to shine. And maybe before you joined, I made mention of your CEO summit. in Baltimore in December. In fact, why don't we start with that, and then I want to talk about the community. And there's me running the analytics forum, but let's talk about Baltimore, and early. What's going on?
So if folks go to smallbizthoughts.com, my blog there, I've got all the information about the IT CEO Success Summit. But basically, there are 5 of us coaches that get together from time to time, and we have a Zoom video call. And we thought, hey, I wonder if we should be able to put together something and get a bunch of people together. So it's a one day, all day long conference, and then it's December 7th in Baltimore, and it's 3 tracks. There's a sales track, a CEO track, and a technology track. So, all right. And it's priced nice and low so that you can bring your whole team. So that's kind of the goal for that.
All right, we'll put that in the thank you note tomorrow. So let's talk about the community that you're building. Take it from the top. I've already made my pitch about the analytics forum.
Well, thank you for doing this and for being in the community and starting some conversations and so forth. The community has 2 components. First of all, it's got a social component, a community component. We've got a bunch of community leaders. You're one of them, obviously. Mark Smith, who's also pictured here on the slide, is with EH Publishing and does a lot of business development and social media stuff for Channel Pro magazine.
Okay.
And then we have lots of people everybody would recognize. I mean, names like Ryan Buccianico and Amy Babinchak, right? Mike Semmel. So we have a lot of people who are really good in this business, who've been around a long while to help kind of lead some conversations. And then also, the second thing we have is lots and lots and lots of content. So I am gradually putting up all of my books, all of my white papers, presentations, recorded classes. Basically, the goal is to eventually have everything I've ever done up there in the community. So I'm just this afternoon, I'm going to be adding the network migration workbook, which is, for those of you who haven't seen it, it's about 600 pages and 200 pages of checklists and some really good material on quoting projects and implementing and running projects and all that kind of stuff. So that's an example of what we're doing. So when the sun sets today, we will have about $3,200 worth of downloadable materials in the community, and we're gonna just keep adding more and more all the time.
And how does a listener join your community, and what is the fee? And by the way, I support fee-based activities. I think we should all be revenue positive, so I support you, brother.
Well, if you think about it, you could go to my SMB book site and you could easily buy $3,000 worth of stuff. You would not have everything that I own, right? You would not even have everything that's for sale. So I think there's tremendous value in it, and part of it is also the value of the ongoing community. So for most of your viewers, the 2 options are either $99 a month or $999 a year. So the $1,000 a year, you save basically a couple $100. So that's a huge value. If there are larger organizations where you might have, say, you want 4 or more people with the same domain to join, it's only $29.99 to have up to 10 people have individual logons. Because I don't care if you want to share your logon with Jenny, but if she posts something up in a forum, it's going to appear as your name. So for larger organizations. And one larger organization's already joined and had 5 of their people go ahead and sign up as members of the community. So that's just an option for large organizations. And I don't want people to think that this is just for one-person shops, because there's a ton of really good stuff here.
Cool. Thank you, Karl. And we're going to, talk about that more. And folks, as I'm able, I'm posting up some of my works in the analytics area. Karl, I can't remember if I posted up that machine learning is animal learning. Maybe on screen number 2, you can fact check me, but it's those kind of things where I train my dog to go through a dog door, and it mimics machine learning. Animal learning has a huge head start over machine learning, like hundreds of thousands of years. And
right.
dogs discover very quickly what works and what doesn't, including begging works far better than hunting. So,
and that's why they're called pets.
yeah, exactly. Jenny, poll number 3, and then I got a couple more topics, and we're going to do a wrap. And Jenny, if you have questions, by the way, now's a great time with the poll open if you have some questions that have queued up. If not, no worries.
Where is Kevin Hunter's page located at that he is talking about at YouTube?
Kevin?
Okay, go to youtube.com/Kevin Hunter, and you'll find the video that I made reference to in the conversation.
Perfect, thank you. And then the other thing I also wanted to mention, Harry, is that we are also transferring slowly but surely all of those YouTube videos over to smbnation.com. We've added a new videos to the menu bar, and so if you click on that videos link, it will start seeing all those past videos from YouTube up on there, and it might be a little easier to look at the video in the description quicker versus searching for YouTube. So you can also go to smbnation.com to start viewing those videos as well. So just a reminder that that is also a great resource.
Yep. All right, Jenny, on your command, go ahead and close the poll, and I'll start to bring this in for a landing.
We are all closed and ready to go, so.
Okie dokie. So community quarter, we've kind of covered off as we've gone along. Those are your questions, folks. I do encourage you to start queuing up your questions so we can hit them head on. We have several panelists today. And then a couple of last thoughts while you're queuing up those questions would be, interestingly, and Karl, I think you were on Q3 2017. In fact, I know you were. I went through the old deck. So a year ago at exactly this time, not on this day, we had the third quarter analyst report, and you and I worked on that. And you may recall there was the speculation that Amazon had just announced HQ2. And as I went through and prepared for this, right, it's like, really? That was a year ago? Are you kidding me?
And they haven't laid a brick yet.
Yeah, and it's still not out. And folks, I still stand by my assertion that it's Austin, Texas. We can go around the horn. They've narrowed the cities down to, I believe, a dozen, including Toronto up in Canada, which is interesting. So, Karl, don't know if you have any revised guess on where HQ2 may land. DC, Austin.
No, I've stopped thinking about it. It's sort of like, just make a decision. I don't care.
Yeah. Kevin, I don't know if that conversation has crossed your desk or if you have any speculation on HQ2.
I don't know.
Okay. All right. And then, folks, last but not least, I'm holding, and I can't see my own camera. Folks, can you see this bottle of whiskey?
Yep.
Okay. So I want to talk to you about this bottle of whiskey. It's Elk Rider out of Heritage Distilling Company in Gig Harbor, Washington. I bought it to share out here at the conferences, and then I'm going to give it as a gift to the people that take care of me when I travel. But I've been upstaged, and there's a group of MSPs that have started a podcast series, and they are really doing a good job. And it's called IT for Whiskey, and that is the URL, by the way, itforwhiskey.com. And so, Karl, it's a lot like, boy, over the years we've had some podcasts come and go. Do you remember Vladville, Karl, and what he was doing with Chris Rue? And then there was another drinking show with MSPs. Wasn't whiskey. But what these guys do, and they have no apparent financial motivation. They don't have any sponsors. It's just good guys getting together and talking about IT. And then they also sample whiskeys during the podcast and talk about whiskeys. So they're doing a really cool job. I want to give them a shout out. I also want to once again give a thank you to SolarWinds MSP, and in particular SolarWinds Mail, for all they do and supporting the community. With that said, Jenny, we have a few minutes left. Kyle, I'm going to call on you if we don't have a lot of questions lined up, and we're going to talk about how to become, the CNN box, as I like to call it. Jenny, any questions that people have queued up before I go to Kyle to kind of catch us on the back end?
One more question for Kevin. Where do they go to see you cover the health news on Thursdays?
Northwest Digital News is both go on the Facebook page or the Facebook group, and that's every Thursday. This broadcast that will be coming up on this Thursday, 10 a.m. This Thursday will be 10 a.m. in the morning, and that is with Jody Summers. We're actually covering the continuation of a conversation on cholesterol, which was so interesting last week. We chose to continue it, but it will be a continuation coverage this Thursday, 10 a.m.
And at 10 a.m. Pacific. Excellent.
Correct. Pacific Standard Time.
So, Kyle, if you want to pick up on when we were talking about YouTube, Kevin handed off to you about how can a IT pro, an MSP, a Microsoft partner, and the computer guy, how can they put this all together?
Well, going into it, because October 8th, right?
Yep.
October 8th was the first year, is basically when we started Northwest Digital News. It was new to me, broadcasting and doing all this, so everything's actually new, and I love it. It's exciting. So just going right into it, it's actually quite simple once you find the just the niche, I guess. The softwares that we use is basically OBS, Open Broadcasting Software. That's what it is. And it's completely free. A lot of streamers, whether it's video gaming or professional just talk shows, actually use OBS. It's actually a really great, since it's open, people actually have I guess extensions for it you can download, so people can mod it as much as they want and add new features. It's really nice. But practically all you really need is a camera and a microphone. Even a laptop could work, and you can stream from anywhere. We use Twitch as another streaming place, another social media basically. And Twitch is like YouTube. If you don't know what Twitch is like YouTube, except instead of saving videos on there, it's actually just completely live. It's 100% live stream. So there's talk shows like us. There's people that broadcast video games. There's a lot, even like D&D's on there. It's crazy. So just off Twitch, there's people with thousands and thousands of people just watching, and some of these people don't even have a webcam. They're just talking and playing video games. Some of these people are live streaming, and it's just them sitting in a room with a webcam and a microphone. They're just talking, but they also have thousands and thousands of viewers watching at the same time. So if you just need to find your niche, find out where you are, and you can practically use anything. You can even with Harry Brelsford, he's got the webcam and the HDMI.
Yeah. Well, this was the missing link. So I have the Yeti mic, which Karl Palachuk is a big fan of, and did not give me one at the.
He was holding out on you.
Right
Yeah,
there.
Karl, he gave away a Yeti mic in Washington, D.C., so I got a Yeti mic. Kyle, seriously, because I'll show my camera, but this was the missing link, and you helped.
Hold it up a little higher, Harry.
Yeah. Kevin, can you see that? It's the conversion device.
Yeah, it's a AGP tech device that basically converts a HDMI out signal from any handycam, converts it to USB, and you can then plug it right in your computer. So then you can use a really high-end camera, either a DSL camera or a video camera, in place of a webcam. Gives you much better video quality. There you go. So you can then use that camera instead of your webcam and shoot in much higher. And you're also then controlling the picture, so you can zoom in and out and whatnot with that camera. Just a couple of things that I want to mention in addition to what Kyle said. If you notice behind us today is a blue screen. GoToWebinar is a little bit slower than some of the other platforms. So if you notice, our camera disappeared for just a moment because we added in a nice fireside room with a snowstorm behind us. And on any other platform uploads, go to webinar, must be just glitchy today or whatever, but the gears kept turning, it never uploaded. So our background can be whatever we want it to be. The beauty of that is that whether a guest is sharing, perhaps a PowerPoint presentation, or they want us to go to a website or whatever. If you've seen any of our Tech Tuesday broadcasts with Harry, you notice our background changes frequently, and it's for that exact reason. It allows us to share content on the screen. And again, when I was sharing with people earlier that when you create video on YouTube, you can create a good visual presentation, but also support that with text and data and other things. And having that blue screen background, we brought that up to.
I travel with it.
The cool thing is a chroma key blue screen that's 10 by 20. You were talking about HQ2 Amazon just a moment ago. You can buy one off Amazon for about $30.
Yep.
So blue screen is really easy to have. And so then when Kyle was mentioning OBS, you can use that your Handycam, plug it into that AGP Tech device, run it right into your computer. Now you're using your Handycam. If you go onto OBS and you're using blue screen technology behind you, well, then OBS has all the settings and all the tools then to be able to use that blue screen in any fashion you want. Now, when I mentioned earlier that we live stream to multiple social media platforms at the same time, the software we're using to do that is called Restream. And so OBS goes to Restream. And if you do a little bit of research on Restream, you'll find out that Restream can go to somewhere in the neighborhood of 25, 30 different social media platforms all at the same time. So you create one broadcast to OBS, throw it into Restream, and then click all the social media platforms you want that live video to go up all at the same time. So it's cool because we're doing that to YouTube, to Facebook page, to Facebook group, to Patreon, to Twitch TV, and doing it all with one broadcast, one click.
And the best part about that is your computer's not the one handling all that. It's Restream servers.
That's correct. So you don't need to have a huge powerhouse computer in order to make all of that happen. There is a couple things hardware-wise, though, that beyond just the camera, the tech device that we shared with you, Harry, and if you don't have a sound studio like we have here, and you're using that Blue Yeti microphone, so those a few basic things. Just in terms of processor in your computer, I would recommend that you have at least an i5 processor. And if you can get a device that has an i7, even better yet. Because any glitchy problems you ever have with any platforms will go away entirely with an i7 processor. And don't try to save money on your graphics cards. So make sure you have a high-end, high-performing graphics card. And those two things will make all of your marriages with OBS and Restream and everything else just work like magic. And we are happy to, at any time, anybody in the viewing audience or Karl or any others who say, hey, I'd like to take my broadcasting game up to another level, get a hold of us at no cost. We'll walk you through all the steps to how to do this. It's no problem.
I appreciate that. And totally, yeah, you're a welcome member of the community. Karl, take us out with your experience with broadcasting, because you've been at it a while and you have the background. Anything you would like to add? I actually learned about the Yeti mic from you.
Well, I'll just echo what Kevin said. Don't try to save money on this stuff. I've got, I don't know, so many lights I can't even keep track of them all. But, to be able to have a place, and to be honest, there's some tricks. I don't know if you can see my glasses back here. When I can't get rid of the glare on my glasses, I put on these, and there's never any glare because there's no lenses. So, then I still have the same look. I just don't have to worry about the glare. So, there's little tricks. And also just, get Camtasia or, some program that you can learn that just play with it and make it better and better and better.
There we go. Well, folks, we found ourselves filling 90 minutes as usual for the format for the analyst report. Thank you for sticking with us. It's a little bit early for my IT whiskey, so I'm going to have to kind of keep that over here on the shelf. I got to go do some interviews and do some host and post. But Jenny, is the deck clear? Got time for maybe one or two more questions? I think we're cool on polling. Anything else out there, Jenny?
We are clear and ready to wrap it up.
All right, man. Okay, well, thanks everybody for participating in Q3. And we'll see you next week for the legal conversation with Ben Yarborough as well. And I'll be coming to you live from Microsoft Ignite in Orlando, Florida for MSP Tech Talk. Kevin, Karl, Kyle, thank you very much. And everybody have a great day. We'll see you later.
So long.
Take care.